Hi everyone, it's your favorite math teacher. Tonight's notes are going to be some vocabulary words for our first unit on integers. So I need you to go to the next clean page in your notebook, right in that front section. At the top of the page, put today's date, and I want you to title the page Integer Vocabulary. Okay, so that's what you're going to title it. The first word we need to talk about, or the first term, is what a positive number is. This should be fairly easy because we're in 7th grade. We know what positive numbers are. But the definition of a positive number is a number to the right of 0 on a number line. It can also be thought of as a number greater than 0. So what we're going to do is we're going to draw a number line. So underneath your description of positive number, we're going to draw a number line. And what I want to see is a straight line. We're going to put 0 in, and a positive number is any number greater than 0 or to the right of 0. So these are positive numbers, the ones we're used to using, 1, 2, 3. So these here, actually, let me erase that. 0 is not positive. It's kind of neutral zone, okay? So anything to the right here is positive. But what about if that number line is not horizontal like the one I just drew? What if it is a vertical number line? A vertical number line, so draw this number line as well. Okay, it's basically the one we just had as horizontal, and we're going to turn it up from the right side and we're going to push it up. So 0 was here, and now we're going to go up. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so anything above 0, so up from 0, are positive numbers. Okay. Next, we have next word I want you to put in your notebook. You guessed it, negative number. So make sure you write negative number. Make sure you underline it, and then we'll put the definition next to it and a diagram below. Okay? So a negative number is a number less than 0 or to the left of 0 on a number line. So let's draw a number line to show negative numbers. So first we're going to do a horizontal number line. Let's put in 0. 0 is always our benchmark. And now we're going to do numbers less than 0. So we're going to start at 0, and then we're going to work our way to the left. So the next, we're only going to do, whole numbers, no decimals or fractions. Directly to the left of 0, we're going to put -1. And then to the left of -1 would be -2. And we're going to keep working our way to the left. -3, and we would keep going, so on and so forth. So it's going to look like a mirror image to our positive numbers. Okay, so these numbers to the left of 0 are negative. So let's think about what that vertical number line is going to look like with our negative numbers. Okay, so negative numbers are below 0. Think about temperature, below 0. So we have 0, and then we're going to count down. So -1, -2, -3. So anything below 0. So on a vertical number line, we would be going down. Those are where our negative values are. Oops, that looks like a W. That's not a W. It's supposed to be IV. So that's where our negative numbers are. Okay, so skip a line from where you left off. The next thing you need to know is what an integer is. We're going to be using that term a lot. And so I want you to write the word integer, underline it, let's put the definition next to it. So integers are a set of numbers that include the whole numbers and their opposites. And I'll explain what that means once you've written that down. Okay, so once you have that definition, let's talk about what that means. We have whole numbers. So whole numbers are a set of numbers that include 0, and I always remember that because whole has what looks like a 0 in it. So whole numbers, that means nothing with a decimal, nothing with a fraction. These are the numbers we love to use because it makes our life easy. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and you get the idea, we just keep going. Okay, so those are whole numbers. So what does it mean when it says a set of numbers that include whole numbers and their opposites? So what are the opposites of these numbers? Okay, so what you need to know is that 0 is neither positive or negative. It's our benchmark. It's like the starting point for any number line. But any other whole number, okay, has an opposite. And the opposite is, if the number is negative, the opposite of a negative is a positive. The opposite of a positive is a negative. So the opposite of 1 is negative 1. Okay, so let's just put a thing here that says these are opposites. The opposite of 2 is negative 2. The opposite of 3 is negative 3. The opposite of 4 is negative 4. And we would keep going. So integers, which is what we're going to start with, we're only going to be using whole numbers and the opposites. We're not going to be working with any type of decimals or fractions just yet. We'll get into those type of rational numbers later. Okay, so the next term, make sure you skip a line, is absolute value. Underline it. And the absolute value is the distance a number is from 0. Okay, so if we have a number line, and we have 0 here, and we have a positive 4, and let's say a negative 5, okay? Now let's think about those numbers. Now, when we talk about how far away from 0 they are, we need to think about if we were standing in that spot, how many steps would we have to take to get to 0, okay? So the absolute value of, let's say, 4, that would mean we're standing on 4. So my red X, maybe you want to get a different color to show this. If I'm standing on 4, how far away am I from 0? This is the distance. So if I start at 4 and I walk to 3, that's 1. If I walk to 2, that's 2 spaces. If I walk to 1, that's 3 spaces. And I've walked to 0, so I've walked 4 spaces. So the absolute value of 4 is 4. And the symbol that we use for absolute value looks like this. And we would put a 4 inside. Okay, so those two lines you see on both sides of the 4, that's the symbol we use to represent absolute value. So the absolute value of negative 4, and so, oops, I don't know what I'm doing over here. That's what this says, the absolute value of 4, not negative 4, I'm sorry. The absolute value of 4 equals 4 because it's 4 spaces away from 0. Now I'm going to change my color And I'm going to do the same thing to figure out the distance from 0, -5 is. So if I'm standing on -5, so here I am. I'm green now. I'm standing on -5. How far away am I from 0? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the way I would show that is I would draw those lines that I don't know what they look like, but the absolute value symbol, and I would put a -5 inside. If I'm standing at -5, the absolute value or distance from 0 is just 5. When we measure distance, we don't measure it as a negative value. The distance from one place to another is always positive. So absolute value is always going to be the number, but positive, okay? So we're going to need that when we talk about the rules for adding and subtracting integers. So we need to know about this absolute value, and we'll talk more about that next class when we talk about adding. The last term that we're going to talk about today, and we're going to use it in class, is zero pairs. So write zero pairs. Make sure that you underline it because it's a new term. And zero pairs are numbers that together make up 0. So for example, if I have a +1 and I put it with a -1, when I put those together, I get 0. Okay? So if I had a +2 and a -2, when I put them together, those make 0. So that's what a zero pair is. We're going to use all of these in our class tomorrow, so make sure your notes are organized and don't forget to bring your notebook to class. See you tomorrow.